Coming to you live from WQMC Radio, my name's Gary Younger, and this is the fifth quarter. We'll be with you until 3 o'clock today, 718-997-3986, 718-997-3986 if you'd like to call in. Like us on Facebook at the fifth quarter. Go to our website, thefifthquarter.org. We've got plenty of articles up for you guys to read and enjoy. We're going to go around a bunch of different sports today. We're going to talk about the Giants. We're going to go NFL, NHL. We're going to talk the World Series and the craziness that's been happening over the past 2 days in St. Louis. Jeremy Tuck at 225. Zev Rosenbaum, our Giants beat reporter, at 125. All that and more. But let's start this one off with just the disgusting, disgraceful embarrassment that was witnessed in Cincinnati, Ohio last night. Final score, Cincinnati Bengals 49, the New York Jets 9. Every single member of this New York Jets team is accountable for this embarrassment of a game. Let's start off the secondary. What a joke right now. Everybody, Antonio Allen, Dewan Landry, Darren Walls, and there were things from Walls that I liked throughout the year, and Antonio Allen showed me something at least against the Patriots. But this was putrid. Marvin Jones. We're not talking about A.J. Green. We're not talking about Calvin Johnson. We're not talking about Des Bryant. Marvin Jones. 8 catches, 122 yards, and 4 touchdowns. The last person to have 4 touchdown receptions in a game were Randy Moss and Terrell Owens. I am pretty sure Marvin Jones is not that talented. Yet you gave up 122 yards to him and 4 touchdowns. Deplorable. Antonio Cromartie was garbage yesterday. Could not cover A.J. Green if his life depended on it. Green should have had a couple touchdowns himself, but he dropped a couple of them. When he had a wide open catch and he just dropped the ball, Cromartie was disgraceful. Green's numbers yesterday, 3 catches, 115 yards. He did not have a touchdown, thankfully. The rest of the team for the Bengals, Mohamed Sanu, 1 catch, 24 yards. Tyler Eifert, 2 catches, 23 yards. And then a bunch of no-names. Jermaine Gresham, Dan Sassenbacher, Brandon Tate all had a catch. Disgraceful. Absolute disgraceful effort. Cromartie gave himself a C. Rex said he was a Pro Bowler. Cromartie only gave himself a C for this half of the year. Right now he's getting an F. He has been bad. He hasn't just not been good. He hasn't been below Cromartie level. He's been flat out bad. He's been beat plenty. He's been getting too physical. He in the Falcons game, he was getting a lot of no calls. I'm going to admit that right now. He was playing bump, and it's a matter of time it came back to bite him. And here it was. Now keep in mind, I'm a Jets fan. I'm not here to I'm not just here for vengeful attacking of the New York Jets like Mike Francesa. I'm not something like that. What I do want to take note of, however, I want everyone here to take note of, this secondary is god awful. They let LaRon Landry go, which was a gigantic mistake. Granted, LaRon Landry's been injured a little bit this year, but when he's played, he's been a monster, 100 times better than his brother Dewan Landry, who the Jaguars let go. The Jaguars are letting go of somebody who know that they're bad. Antonio Allen showed me, even with Gronk having 8 catches, 114 yards the week before against them, Antonio Allen still did a decent job. He was god awful. Darren Walls couldn't block. Darren Walls was thrown on Marvin Jones. He couldn't stop him. Cromartie couldn't stop A.J. Green. Now, granted, we're talking about A.J. Green. Once again, I'm not taking anything away from the Bengals team. They're a talented team. But they're not 49 points talented. But the most disgusting member of this secondary is D. Milner. He was benched once this year because of immaturity, essentially. It wasn't because of his physical play. Then he got hurt. He had the job of covering Marvin Jones yesterday. He led up 3 touchdowns. This is the number 9 overall pick in the draft that you traded for. This is the guy that Darrelle Revis left town for. This is supposed to be your new great corner. He's a joke. He's an immature kid who can't cover a typical number 2 receiver. Kyle Wilson looked better than him yesterday, for Christ's sake. Kyle Wilson. Boise State, number 29 overall, Kyle Wilson. The man who, of endless penalties, did a better job yesterday than your number 9 overall pick, who you traded the best corner, or was the best corner in the NFL for. Meanwhile, they're finally realizing how to use Darrelle Revis in Tampa, which is very good news for Buccaneers fans going forward, but we'll get into them later. Milner was finally benched yesterday. Finally. After just piss poor play, Darren Wallace came in. Darren Wallace let up a touchdown. Because, it's the Jets secondary. They can't guard anybody. But there's plenty of blame to spread around here. It's not just on the secondary. Let's talk about Geno Smith. Oh, Geno. Yeah, that guy. I wrote an article this week on the fifthquarter.org. He's the Jekyll and Hyde of the NFL. He really is. He'll come out, have a great game. He'll get you all hyped up. And then he'll have a game like this. He'll have 3 touchdowns against the Falcons and lead the game-winning drive. Then he'll play like crap against the Steelers. He'll have a good game against the Bills. Have 4 turnovers against the Titans. There needs to be consistency here. Last night proved why he's Jekyll and Hyde. His numbers yesterday: 20 of 30, 159 yards, 2 pick sixes. Not one, but 2 pick sixes on the day. For one, Geno Smith, before he finally got mercifully benched for Phil Simms' son and Matt Simms. We didn't do any better, but I didn't expect him to do great. 3 of 7, 17 yards. Geno was god-awful yesterday. He couldn't cover reads. And by cover, I mean he couldn't tell when there was coverage. Both pick sixes were god-awful, especially the first one. He was standing in the flat. The defender was in the flat. There was no argument as to whether David Nelson was covered on that play. He was draped, threw the ball right to him, and he ran back for an easy pick six. The second one went to Pac-Man Jones, which was also a god-awful throw because he's playing zone. He's playing in on the zone. And he tries to force a throw in, and Pac-Man Jones gets it easily and runs it back. Geno made a piss-poor attempt to make the tackle, and I don't blame him. He should have just let him go at that point, not risk the injury. But nonetheless, just terrible effort yesterday from Geno. Matt Simms didn't look much better. Again, 3 of 7, 17 yards, no touchdowns, no picks. He was sacked once. Played 3 series. And I'll talk about Rex in a few minutes. But I will commend Rex on one thing. I'll commend him on one thing. I'll commend him on a couple more things later. But for now, he did not say it's Geno's job right now. And I don't blame him. Geno has looked at, in 4 games this year, like he deserves his job. And 4 games this year, looked like he should be a 3rd stringer. You can't be both. I'm sorry. You want to be an NFL quarterback, you need to be able to do one thing. Throw the ball. Throw the ball properly. Learn how not to throw 2 pick sixes into clear coverage. The Bengals D right now was down Ray Malaluga. They'd already lost Leon Hall for the year, their top corner. This wasn't an unbeatable secondary. But no, he looked like a goddamn fool throwing the ball who knows where. He was overthrowing, he was underthrowing, he couldn't tell coverages. It was embarrassing yesterday. Embarrassing. As far as the receivers, Jeremy Curley was a non-factor yesterday. And that's something that, if anything else, to get this offense going, Jeremy Curley needs to be able to catch the ball. David Nelson cannot be your number one receiver. David Nelson's numbers yesterday: 8 catches, 80 yards. Jeremy Curley, 3 catches, 27. Stephen Hill, who keeps getting injured. Let me get on Stephen Hill for a quick second. You gotta stay on the field. I'm sorry. I feel bad. You're getting hit hard. Everything. But if that's the case, don't be in the NFL. Every single game I've seen him play this year, pretty much, he's left the game with an injury and left it for a good couple of drives. Is he that fragile of a player? He doesn't look it. Stephen Hill needs to be able to stay on the field. This is not rocket science. He needs to be able to take a hit. Granted, some of the hits he's had were hard, especially against Palomalu. Palomalu rocked him 2 weeks ago. But I don't care. For the majority of these situations, you need to be able to take a hit. As far as the run game goes yesterday, also piss poor. Alex Green, the four-stringer from the Green Bay Packers who was cut, was the best running back yesterday. This isn't a bad joke. This is factual. Alex Green's numbers: 3 catches, 3 runs for 20 yards, and that was at the end of the game when Matt Sims was in with him. Bilal Powell yesterday: 10 runs, 19 yards. Chris Ivory, 6 runs, 11 yards. Matt Sims and Alex Green yesterday combined for 6 runs for 55 yards. Your 2 starting running backs and your starting quarterback, who's supposed to be able to move a little bit, combined for 18 carries for 38 yards. This is a good Bengals defense. They're not a great Bengals defense. They can be beat. There were plenty of holes. When Ray Malaluga, their linebacker, went out yesterday, Bilal Powell needs to be able to hit those holes that are missing. Their backup was not doing a fantastic job. There were slip-ups in the coverage. Bilal Powell needs to hit some holes and run. But he couldn't do that. He was running into a brick wall yesterday. The offensive line was fine. I don't take great issue. They had some problems, but I don't take great issue with the offensive line from yesterday. I even have to go after these guys. And the one bright spot on this team that I thought I'd never have to go after was this defensive line. They were awful yesterday as well. This front 3 and front 7 were awful yesterday. Andy Dalton had a month and a half back there. Andy Dalton's a good, again, like the rest of this Bengals team, Andy Dalton's a good quarterback. He's not a great quarterback. He's not 19 of 30, 325 yards, 5 touchdowns. Good quarterback. I know he's been hot. I know he's been on fire recently. But he's not that good. You should be able to bring some pressure to him. I'll give them this much. When Giovanni Bernard's fumble was overruled, they did make 3 good stops when the Bengals were on the 1-yard line and had them turn the ball over. I will give them that. But they need to bring better coverage to Andy Dalton. They needed to. They gave him all the time in the world yesterday, which hurt the secondary. And the secondary was god-awful, as I stated at the top of the show. But that's not an excuse for a secondary. Nonetheless, though, the D-line needs to play better than this. And they can. We know they can. This might have been just an off game, but they need to play better. The linebackers yesterday were not doing a great job. Giovanni Bernard didn't exactly explode. Neither did Ben Jarvis Green Ellis. I'll give that front 7 that much for stopping the run nicely. Final numbers yesterday: Ben Jarvis Green Ellis, the law firm, 11 carries, 33 yards. Giovanni Bernard, 5 runs for 18 yards. And then a couple of no-names. Corey Pearman, 6 runs, 11 yards. And Juwan Johnson, I think that's his name. Josh Johnson, the quarterback, my apologies. 3 carries for 17 yards. Last but certainly not least, I want to talk about Rex. But this isn't a bad talk about Rex, surprisingly, how the tone of the show is going so far. I liked what I saw out of Rex yesterday. I liked it. It was very, very, very different than what we've seen these past few years. What we've seen till now is a guy who just simply was neutered. That's what he was. He was neutered. He had no fire in him, no willpower, and was just, yeah, okay, I know, we'll be better. No. Last night, he said, this is everybody's fault. He said straight out, it's everybody's fault. He didn't let anyone take blame yesterday, anyone not have blame yesterday. I also commend him for, once again, saying that this quarterback position is still open for a job. Now, I don't want to see Geno lose his job per se this moment. But if he's going to have on and off games like this every other week, I'd rather just see Matt Sims be okay for a couple of weeks and see what at least he can do. Now, again, I'm not advocating sitting Geno. By no means. I'm just saying they might come a time. That's all I'm saying. Otherwise, I liked what I saw out of him in general yesterday. It looked like he doesn't have all of it back, but it looks like he has some of that bravado back in him. Do I think he deserves a contract extension? Absolutely. I want to see him back next year. In fact, our 4-4 is a miracle right now, I would say. But it's hard to bring back a guy if he goes 6-10 or even 8-8. It's hard to bring back a guy like that. But I really do want to see Rex back because I think Rex is a fantastic defensive coordinator. And Martin Morgan can do the job with offense. They need to add more pieces to this offense, to be 100% honest. And they could be a good team. They need a number one receiver. They don't have a number one or a number two receiver on this team right now. It's fact. 100% fact. Looking ahead right now, knowing the Jets, they're playing New Orleans Saints next week to end their hell schedule. They'll win that game. Yeah, I'm going to say they're going to beat New Orleans because it's New Orleans. Of course, it's coming up after a loss. That's the Jets' motto. They beat the Buccaneers, they lose to the Patriots. Beat the Bills, lose to the Titans. Beat the Falcons, lose to the Steelers. Beat the Patriots, lose to the Bengals. They'll probably keep going like this. They'll beat the Saints, they'll lose to the Bills, they'll beat the Ravens, they'll lose to the Dolphins, they'll beat the Raiders, they'll lose to the Panthers, so on and so forth, and they'll end the season 8-8. But I'll say, for the countless time, right now, this team, specifically two parts of this team, need to step up. One is that secondary. Disgust and nausea. Couldn't even begin to describe what I felt about this team yesterday. And second, Geno. You have to decide now. Are you going to be a third stringer and throw 2 pick sixes? Or are you going to be the guy I saw against the Falcons who I commended and I was proud of? It's got to be one of the two. You can't be both. I'm sorry. It doesn't work like that. And the NFL doesn't work like that. Especially when you have guys like Teddy Bridgewater coming out next year who you can possibly... You're not going to get him, but there are good quarterbacks coming out in this next stacked draft that you could potentially work on if Geno isn't the answer for this team. So I want to see him keep going, but if he's going to play like this, I'd rather draft a new quarterback. I'm that frustrated at this point. There was nothing positive yesterday about him or anyone on this team. It is 1:20 on WQMC Radio. My name is Gary Younger. This is the Fifth Quarter. We're here till 3 o'clock. Like us on Facebook, at the Fifth Quarter, thefifthquarter.org. Check us out. Plenty of good articles up. MLB, NHL, NBA. When we come back, we're going to talk about the Giants game yesterday. And that was just a weird one. Weird game. We'll talk about it with our Giants beat reporters, Ev Rosenbaum. Right now, once again, it's 120. Here is Rise Against with Make It Stop.